So the most important thing with any sort of health regimen or routine is just making it part of your regular day, carving out a little bit of time for it, and not being too hard on yourself if you miss a day here and there. Okay? So every day is a new day. When you're working with a stretching regimen, and this is something that's very, very important for us adults. When we're 12 years old, it's not as important because you have a lot more flexibility. But as we know, as time goes on, our lives become pretty repetitive with what we're doing, sitting at desks and our work and things like that. So the body really forms into a certain position, and certain muscle groups will actually start to shorten. Okay? So this routine is a very basic routine. It's very easy to go through. It should be pretty easy and basic for anyone. But the main thing is listen to your body. That's with anything you're doing, okay? With what you eat, with anything related to your health. But when you're stretching, listen to your body. Don't try and push too hard past anything, okay? And just as you go day by day, that's when you start seeing improvement. Okay? Perfect. So what we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to run through the daily routine, and this should only take a few minutes. Okay, it's only going to take maybe less than 10 minutes or so. And then we'll go back and touch on the important aspects of it, okay? So just find a good spot. We've got our lighting all dimmed out in here. Okay, so yeah, and if you guys need to move around, that's totally fine. So you prepare yourself with breathing, okay? So remember, how do you find out where your normal posture should be? Normal posture is when you look from the side, the ear, shoulder, hip, and ankle should be on the same plane. So you take a full inspiration of air, and then without moving, let it out. Okay, so as you take a full inspiration of air, and keep doing this, a couple breaths. A full inspiration of air lines your posture up. So without moving, let it out. Right? You should all be able to feel that. You know, we feel like gravity pushes us down sometimes, or that head is coming forward. You feel locked up between the shoulder blades and the base of the neck. It's a very important thing. If there's one thing that you can incorporate all throughout the day, it's this postural breathing exercise. Okay? And another note is you always want to make sure you're nice and hydrated throughout the day, but especially if you're going to be doing stretching, right? Because you will be releasing toxins, so you need to flush all those out. First thing we're going to work on is range of movement in the cervical spine or the neck, okay? So start with your postural position, and if you want to close your eyes, you can. And then just work with flexion and extension, right? When you bring the head back, that's called extension. And gentle range of movement. Don't be forcing anything. So just come back as far as it feels natural, and then flexing forward like you want to look towards the floor. And again, listen to what your body's telling you. We're going to do this a couple of times. So we don't have to do it all together. Just work within flexion and extension. Taking some deep breaths. Okay. All right, then you can come back to neutral. Any of these stretches, we're going to just do each one maybe 3 times or so. You can do it 10 times if you want. Okay? And we're going to work in rotation. So remember, check your position with breathing, and then slowly rotate to your right. I'll just mirror you here. Okay, and just like keeping your eyes in the same plane, like you want to look over your shoulder. Again, don't force it at the end of the range of movement, and then just slowly come back. Okay? And then just work with rotation, left rotation, right rotation. A couple of times. Okay. And then coming back to a neutral position, and we're going to work with lateral flexion. Lateral means to the side, so that means bringing the ear toward the shoulder, side bending. Okay, so again, I'll just mirror you. I'll go to the right. And then slowly work into the other side. And let gravity work. Sometimes people want to apply pressure with their hand. I don't recommend that because you never know what you're going to be levering on. That's my recommendation. And then just keep working through side bending, or what we would call lateral flexion. Okay? And you should already feel the blood flowing a little bit. You're working with your breathing. You should already feel more oxygenation. Okay? Now we're going to work with a couple of muscle groups. I don't expect you to remember the names. They're in the handout that I'm going to give you. Okay, and anybody that's watching this on video can just email me, dirkdulmes@gmail.com. That's pretty easy. I'll put a little thing down at the bottom here. But we're going to work on muscle groups called the scalenes and the levator scap. So these are more of an angle, okay? So we're just working in kind of the neutral planes, flexion, extension, rotation, and side bending. Now this is going to incorporate a little bit of rotation. So let's slightly rotate to the right, only about 30 degrees or so. And then you're going to just let the head tip back from there. And you should feel the right side, again I'm mirroring you, so my left but your right, you should feel that stretching down kind of into the clavicle. This is a stretch that you can do seated. Okay, you can come back. Let's do a slight rotation to the right. You don't have to turn all the way, only about 30 degrees or so. And then just let gravity take the head back, and it should be stretching down from just under your chin, off center, down into the clavicle. This is one you can do seated. And, okay, come back neutral for a second. You can grip the chair that you're sitting in and kind of lean away, and that will traction the shoulder girdle down. You'll get a bit more of a stretch that way. Same is true for the next stretch, which is the levator scap, which attaches here and down to here. So whenever someone puts their thumbs into your traps area and they find those golf balls, that's the origin of the levator scap muscle, okay? So it's the same sort of thing. We're going to slightly rotate to the right, and then instead of going up, we're going to bring the chin down, okay? And again, if I'm holding the chair, I'll mirror you with my left hand, then you should be feeling it all the way through here, okay? And this is when you kind of have to work on the angles a little bit until you can feel it. There's not one precise way to say exactly 30 degrees this way and flex the head down. You kind of have to work with the angle a little bit. But you should be feeling it from the shoulder girdle or the scap just down into here. So let's just review those. We're going to do anterior scaling. Front again, slight rotation, and chin up. Okay, you should be feeling it off to the side. Sometimes you can even bring your opposite hand up to the clavicle and just put a little bit of pressure down like this. Okay? Again, just go nice and easy with these. And then we're going to let's do the other side, rotate, and bringing the chin up. Okay, let's come back to neutral. And then doing the back, which is the levator. Okay, it's postural muscle. Rotate slightly and chin down. And when you're doing it in a seated position, basically the chin's coming to the opposite knee. And these you will get much more of an intense stretch. If you are sitting, gripping the seat, and leaning away, it'll pull the whole shoulder girdle down. You'll get a much more intense stretch. Okay? So that group of stretches, very important for us, especially if we're working at a desk or we're driving or doing anything with extended sitting, because the head always tends to go forward like this. And when the head is shifting forward in space, these muscle groups here are shortening, right? And then what are these muscle groups trying to do? They're trying to pull back. So we wonder why we get so tight through the traps and into the neck. So it's very important, the postural breathing and then the range of movement in the neck. So my approach is kind of an above-down, so we're going to just keep moving through. Okay, so the next thing that I work through is just through the shoulder girdle. Okay, you guys know what the pectoralis muscle are, or the pecs, the chest muscles. So if you can find maybe a wall or something that you can just put your hand on. So basically, you do this in a doorway or whatever, you can just hold like this, and then you rotate your body out, away, and you should feel that stretching through the chest muscle here, all right? Okay, and this is a good one because you can change the angle a lot. You can move the hand up 6 inches and then rotate out, and you're going to be catching different fibers of that muscle group. Okay? When I do it, I work all the way through a doorway, and I also have a chin-up bar in my little area in my room where I do it, and I also do a hanging stretch. So if that's something that interests you, you might want to look into that. People who have shoulder problems, you guys have heard of frozen shoulder? So a frozen shoulder is basically where someone injures their shoulder and they stop using it because it hurts, and then all the muscles lock that shoulder in there and they can't move it at all. And to get any range of movement is nearly impossible, and it's very crippling with pain. So if you have any sort of shoulder problems, you need to work on range of movement in your shoulders every single day. Okay? So when we do this, we do both sides, right? We always do both sides of the body. We never just want to stretch one area that's sore. We want to work through everything. So again, we're just going to do a couple different angles here, but this is one that you can lower the hand and make it lower and then lean in and raise it and just work with a couple of different angles. I usually work with about 3 to 5 different angles, and then I just hang straight down from my chin-up bar. Okay? Next one, if you have any sort of shoulder problems, you want to be very careful with this one, but this is for stretching the triceps, right? Which is this muscle group right here in the back of the arm. The action of the triceps is extension of the forearm. So to stretch any muscle group, you have to separate the 2 points where the muscle attaches. So we're going to bring this into flexion. So if you can, remember, if you have any shoulder issues or elbow issues or anything like that, just go easy with this. So you just want to kind of come across like this, and you're going to pull back like so. And if you need a little more stretch, bring the hand in more like that. If you guys can see what I'm doing here. You should feel that stretching all on the posterior aspect of your upper arm. Yeah? This is a good one. It's a muscle group that very rarely gets stretched. Okay, relax. Let's do the other side. Okay, again, just bring it across. Go nice and easy. Remember our postural breathing. Keep the spine in a strong position. If you need a little more stretch, once again, just bring the hand in a little bit more. Or you can also do a little bit of lateral bending to the opposite side. Go easy with this one, especially if you're not used to working with it. Okay? Biceps is kind of the same. You can kind of get the biceps in with the shoulder, stretching. Okay? And then me, and unlike, likely to Dr. Bemis, we got to stretch our forearms all the time because we are just using our hands all day. And you guys, I'm sure, are using your hands for different things. But being chiropractors, if you're not doing these things, come Friday night, your hands kind of feel like this. Okay? So what I do to stretch hands and forearms, right? These are the flexors because they flex. These are the extensors because that's extension. So what I like to do is basically I spread all my fingers. How often do you do this, right? How often do you take your body through these ranges of movement? And we should be doing it every single day. So you can stretch, wrists out in front of you, kind of point the fingers out. You can feel it already, right? And then you slowly bring it back like this. And this is going to be, give a little more room to yourselves. You're going to feel that deep stretch, okay? And that's the nerves in there. Okay? And you're getting more of the flexors. Okay, you can also come forward like this. These are a little bit of variations. And I like to keep my fingers spread like this. And just flexing back like that. Nice and easy. Right? We never want to work these too hard. Especially if this is new for us, go nice and easy. Please, we don't need to have any injuries or anything just from a simple stretching routine. Bring it down. Okay, so you're flexing the wrist, but now you're stretching the extensors, right? Okay. I'm going to do the other side. This feels good. We had a busy day today. And this is what I'm running through every day after I get done adjusting. Okay? A couple of variations for this. This is a little bit high, but if you have a desk or a table, you can kind of work with that a little bit too. So let's say it's something about this high. You can kind of lean into it like that. You can also do the same thing on a wall, right? Okay. Make sure I cover everything I wanted to there. Moving down the body. Now we're going to move into the thorax. Okay? This is a very basic one that I just call a thoracic rotation. So bringing the arms across and just kind of hugging your shoulders, hands on the shoulders. And what you want to do is line yourself up with postural breathing. We don't want to be flexed over when we're doing this one. Okay? And then we're just going to, let's rotate to the right. I'll mirror you. And keep your pelvis square and just gently go to the side. This one might feel really tight when you get to a certain range of movement. It might not feel like you have much range. Okay? And just work through your breathing with it. If you go to the other side and you feel more comfortable switching the arms, sometimes you can because it feels like you want to stretch across. This is just thoracic rotation. This is, again, we can do a couple of these. This is a range of movement that the body very, very rarely goes through, right? Especially very gentle and controlled and slow. Okay, this is going to open up the discs. It's going to bring hydration to the discs. We're doing it with our nice, strong postural alignment. So we're not, sometimes the thorax, when that head's going forward, it feels flexed like this. Okay, so that's really the only one that I do for the thoracics. Sometimes what I will do as well is just extensions over a foam roller, which we don't have a bunch of foam rollers to demonstrate. Do you guys know what those are? Foam rollers, you can pick them up for probably $20 to $30 to get a very decent one. They're about this big around, and you can get them in different lengths. But sometimes I will roll through my occiput down through the thorax and just kind of stretch out, especially if I'm feeling like I've been flexed forward a lot that day.
On your back you do that?
Yes, supine, face up, on the floor. Okay. Okay. Lumbar extension. We know what the lumbar spine is, right? It's the lower back. So again, if you're sitting all day, or we're doing things where we're hunched forward, we're flexed, what's going to happen is the back's going to get stuck in this flexed position. This is one of the most common things. If a person has a real acute lower back problem, very commonly they did something that was in the flexion or rotation or a combination of those movements. They went down like this. They went to tie their shoe. They did something like that. And the spine gets stuck in flexion. Most of the things that we're doing, whether it's gardening or picking up little kids or anything like that, is in a flexed position. So you have to work with the opposite, which is extension. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You got to be very careful with this one. You don't just want to lean into it as far as you can, as hard as you can, but just either get your hands up just above the pelvis or your thumbs like that. Start with breathing, line yourself up, and then just a very gentle extension. And only hold it for about 3 or 5 seconds. You don't want to hold this one for 20. And you can do 20 reps if you want, or just a couple seconds. This one especially, being a chiropractor, kind of leaning forward on the chiropractic adjusting table, it's an absolute must. Okay? Next one is called the psoas, spelled with a P-S. O-A-S. Okay, the psoas is more commonly known as the hip flexor because its action is to flex the hip. Again, repeating myself, but can you imagine if you're sitting, your hips flex the whole time, your psoas is contracted. So a very important stabilizer of the low back and pelvis is the psoas. And you see these guys kind of walking and they get this, they're flexed at the hips like this. Their psoas is probably half the length that it should be. And they've probably been doing something that makes them, or required them to sit for many years. So the psoas is very similar to the extension stretch, except it's like doing one half at a time and you're really going to isolate. So give yourself a little space and lunge forward. If you want to bring the whatever foot forward you want, start with the right or start with the left. Keep yourself square. Remember your posture, keeping that ear above the shoulder. And if you want to put your hands on your hips like this, just to kind of keep yourself square, imagine your spine staying totally upright. We're not going to lean too hard into this one. We're going to do most of it with the hips. And if you need to lean against something or get your hand on a chair or something with that, that's okay. And what you're stretching is your leg that's back. You should feel it stretching kind of right by the pocket area, just below that hinge area where the hip is. Okay? This is the psoas, or the hip flexor stretch. Okay? And again, if anyone has any specific questions, we can go through it one-on-one anytime. But you should be feeling it kind of right here. It's right at the top of the quads. Okay? The psoas goes along the lumbar spine, along your lower back, and then attaches to the top of the femur. Okay? It's the filet mignon cut on the cow, right? Or the tenderloin on the deer. Do the other side if you haven't already. This, if for someone that's having chronic lower back stuff going on, very key stretch. I'm going to go through a couple more of those in a second here. But the psoas it's a very overlooked stretch. Okay? Not too many people are taught how to stretch the psoas. Okay, were you guys all able to feel that? If not, we can go through it a little bit later. Okay? All right. I'm going to go through the other standing ones, and then there's a couple that if you want to go on the floor, we can. And if not, you'll just have the handout and you can get the idea. Okay? So just moving down, and do the quads, right? The quadriceps are right in front. So I like to do this when I can have my hand on something. Get your posture lined up. This might be really tight. You might not really even feel like you can get your hip all the way square, but imagine if you're standing neutral, that the hip, the upper leg should be in the same position it is. Okay? And if you're having any sort of ankle problems or hip problems or knee problems, go very, very carefully with this one. Okay? Let's try the other side. Couple breaths. Breathing. This one too is a very, very important one for stabilizing low back and pelvis. Okay, just keep going easy and then go ahead and relax. All right. Everyone knows what the calves are, right? The gastrocs. There's a couple different ways you can stretch these. The easiest way in this room probably is going to be find a wall or something you can kind of push against, lean against, and then you're going to bring one heel back and just lean into it. Okay? So you should be stretching your calf that's back. Everyone getting that? Everyone looks good. Okay? And again, a couple seconds, and then just go ahead and switch. We'll keep moving through these in the interest of time, but when you're doing this, remember, you need to listen to your own body, and if you feel like you need to stay here for 15, 20 more seconds, or do each side 3 or 4 times, and that's what you need to do. That's an easy way to do it. What I like to do at my house, I've got a set of stairs right next. You can also, if you can imagine, this is my foot standing, and this is my heel. I go with about half of my foot hanging on the stair, and I put this foot behind, and just let my weight stretch it straight down like that. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's stretching the calves. Now we're going to stretch the front of the legs, tibialis anterior. This one, be very careful, please, if you have any knee issues or ankle issues. But stretching the front, I just do it in a kneeling position. can feel free to do this if you want, and if you just want to do it on your own time later, that's fine. So you can do it with, I'll kind of do it from the side. Feet flat, and you should feel it stretching right in front. And when I do it, I just kind of line my spine up. I have my hands right on my hips, and I just do probably about 15 or 20 deep breaths. I'm not trying to lean into it real hard or stretch back like this, but if you need a little more stretch, you can do that. If you're leaning back like this, some people can bring their arms all the way back to the floor. You're not going to see me attempt to do that, especially here tonight. But, so that's stretching the front. Okay, now there's just 2 more, and these are done laying on your back. So if you want to do that, you can. If not, that's okay. So the first one is going to be the hamstring stretch. Okay, so lay flat on your back. When I have people stretch their hamstrings, I have them do it in a supported, neutral position. Okay, so head flat on the floor. What you want to do is, let's start with the left side. Bring your left knee up. Interlace your fingers behind the knee. Inside the pit of your knee, if you will. Inside like this. There you go. Okay? Bring the knee back as far as you can. Again, go easy. Extend your leg up till it stops. Keep that knee forward as far as you can. And now point your foot down toward the head. There we go. And you should be feeling that in your calves, in your hamstrings, and deep behind the knee, which is the sciatic nerve. Okay, go ahead and relax. Again, this one, if you want to, you can switch sides if you want. 1, 2, 3. Knee, leg, foot. That's what you have to remember. Knee, leg, foot. And breathe. Okay, go ahead and relax. While we're on our backs, there's the last one is the glute stretch. What you want to do, let's bring the left knee up into the left hand, but bring your right hand down to the left ankle.
Okay, left knee.
Left hand on left knee, right hand on the ankle. Okay, the vector for this, or the direction, is you want to bring the knee across the body towards the opposite shoulder. So bring that left knee toward the right shoulder. And then you can take your right hand and kind of angle the stretch in like this. Okay, so if you need more stretch, you take your right hand and pull it in a little bit. And you should be feeling that in the glutes. Yes? This is
I'm sorry, is the other leg flat?
Yep. Opposite leg should be flat. Very good. Okay, you can relax. Let's just switch sides. Everyone doing okay? We're almost there, guys. Okay, so bring the knee across the body to the opposite shoulder. The biggest mistake I see with people doing this one is they want to bring the knee straight up, which you're not really going to get much of the glutes that way. So across the body and then angle it in. Take that left arm and pull in a little bit, and you can really feel that in those external rotators and the glutes. Okay. Good job, guys. Everyone's feeling more flexible now, right? So whenever you're ready, can work yourselves back up. A couple of variations for that one. Sometimes what I'll do is, especially when I'm in the adjusting room or if I got a chair or something, I'll get my foot up on something, if you can imagine, and I'll just bring this shoulder towards that and just kind of angle in. And then I'm going to hit that. You can also do the pigeon pose, right? Where this is kind of back, and then you just kind of bring the shoulders down like this. That's kind of intense on the hips. So there's a lot of variations for a lot of these. A variation for the hamstrings, which is the way I prefer to do it, I call it the lazy man's hamstring stretch, is, again, I've got an interior corner in my house where I do this. And you want to be, normal range of movement's 90 degrees. But you want to be able to get your backside right up like this. And I just set a timer for 3 minutes, and I do each leg for 3 minutes. Feels good. I'm not going to move. Good night, everybody. Okay. Good. So, if you guys can come on up whenever you're ready. See why you need water when we do this? You can feel it, right? Okay. So the most important thing, let's just kind of reiterate the points. Listen to your body. Don't try and push past anything that your body's telling you to be careful with. Make sure you're hydrated. And if you miss a day, don't beat up on yourself. Just try and carve out a piece of time to do it the next day. All right, we all have busy lives. But if you can take a little time, let's see, so we went through it slowly. I was explaining things. It was about close to 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. You can probably knock this out in 12 or 15, right? Okay. And then the postural breathing. It's really one of the most important points I can try to get through to everybody. Getting yourself hydrated, okay? That's a big part of healing. It's a big part of your body functioning, right? And then the postural breathing. It's how you remind the body where it's supposed to be several times throughout the day. Nobody even knows you're doing it. And they ask you, yeah, are you getting taller or what's different about you? Okay, then you just smile and remember how we talked about it here tonight. Okay?